Welcome, Creativo family. We have Lara Sleiman with us today. Lara is a curator here in New York. She focuses on African art and has just graduated from Sotheby's with her master's. She has a lot to share with us today about the art world, what she's seeing, what trends she's excited about, and a lot about African art. Welcome, Lara.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Laura, can you tell us a little bit about where you grew up and your origin story, how you got into art?
I'm a big mix. I'm Lebanese. I grew up in Senegal, in West Africa, and I studied in France before coming to New York. Um, I strongly believe that I always liked art. I started drawing when I was, I don't know, 6 or 7 maybe. Um, And then when I got older, I started getting interested in art history. When I was in high school, I actually begged my parents to send me to the Beaux-Arts, which in Senegal is not as structured as the famous one in Bordeaux in France. And they were like, no, we're not sending you there. So
Okay.
I was trying to search for a job that would mix art and something more structured. And someone advised to do auctioneer. So to do an auctioneer in France, you need to do law and art. I started with law, and my parents told me something that at the time I did not agree with and I didn't understand, but right now I feel like I would give the same advice if I have children, that Lara, you're Lebanese, you grew up in Senegal, you do not know where life is going to take you next, in what country you're going to end up. We're not telling you that you're gonna come back to Senegal or to West Africa. We're not telling you where exactly you're gonna be. We're just telling you that just have a secured plan B in case you end up in a country where auctioneer does not exist. So I did law. I got my master's in law, and then I brought my diploma, and I was like, "Hey guys, now can I do something I like?" And they were like, "Yeah, of course, do whatever. You've always wanted to do art." So I started looking for masters in art history or anything related to art. And but the French system is very strict. If you start in a field, you need to pursue that field. So I got stuck.
Oh.
And I started looking online. Okay, if the French system doesn't want me to switch, I'm gonna switch systems. So I looked online. I found the Sotheby's Institute of Art program, and I applied. And I swear I was not expecting 1 minute to be accepted in New York. And when I was so shocked. I looked at all my friends and was like, guys, I'm moving to New York in 4 months. and,
Amazing.
and this is how like I ended up in New York in the art world. And I didn't know much about it. I was used to the very rigid law word. Um, and I've been here in New York for 2 years now. This is my third year. And I think that the me when I arrived and the me right now are two completely different persons. Um, and being in New York just proved to me how much I like the art, and I discovered how much there is to do and all the opportunities that existed. So yeah, I mean, this is kind of like my art journey and how I ended up where I am. And actually, I want to add, I was not planning on doing curation when I first arrived. I was planning on working in the art where I didn't know exactly what. And then I had this class with an amazing professor that I love, Han Hongzeng, and he just shared his passion with so much joy and happiness. And I was like, okay, I want to be an art curator. And we had our first group project. I just loved it. And this is how I knew I wanted to be an art curator.
Wow. I love that story.
It's a very long story to arrive here, but yeah, it's
Wow. Wow. So you're an art curator in New York. Can you be an art curator other places now that you've been
yeah.
here? Is that how that works?
With my position right now, I do think I can be a curator back in France or anywhere else. If I want to get into a museum, it's gonna be another step.
Oh, cool. And what are your role models in getting into curation? I know you mentioned your professor really inspired you.
Yes. Um, I don't really have a curator art model, but because usually I get inspired by people, not who they like represent publicly, but who they are. I got very inspired by someone named Brooke. She's a Sotheby Institute of Art alumni, and she was the chairman at Sotheby's auction house. And now she's working at Gagosian, and she has a very interesting journey, and I could relate to her. So I'm gonna be inspired by her. Um, I'm actually very inspired by Marie-Chloé, that, she's an amazing Canadian artist, because she's full of positivity. So I don't choose my inspirations only according to if they're curators or not. I'm just gonna see more largely what they accomplished and what is the journey of the person that I'm speaking to or that I'm meeting.
Who are some of your favorite artists?
I distinguish in two categories. The first one is the art that I like. So I'm gonna be admirative of the work that is done. For instance, Monet. Monet was one of my first inspiration. I just loved the work. A bit less the person from what I've read, because I obviously never met him.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then from the people themselves, I would say Etel Adnan. She's a Lebanese artist, and I just have so much respect for her. She's Syrian, Lebanese, and I think French, and she's inspired by Van Gogh, scholar. She was also a poet, poetress.
Yeah, poet.
A poet.
Poet for both.
Okay.
Male and female.
She was a poet, and she writes very poignant pieces on top of her very colorful artwork that depicts the landscapes of the Levant region. And I do have a poem if you
I
want.
would love to hear it, yeah.
Okay. The sun is bleeding, its rays are dying. The earth opens up in its skin. The stars are weeping and the planets are moaning. The universe is burning. Suns in the galaxies are killing their fires. The dead and the wounded are in the streets. And that's from the Arab apocalypse. I just think, yeah, obviously with the actual context is very speaking. But yeah, no, she died in 2021, and some people met her, and from what I've heard from them, she was a beautiful person. Oh. And she really fought to get the Levant region the highlight that it needed in the art world. She's in many museums. And I really do respect her work and her journey as an artist.
I wish you got to meet her. It seems like you guys would have gotten along.
I wish. Maybe I'll meet the next Etel Adnan. You never know.
You definitely will. Definitely will. Yeah. What is your role as a curator like now? What shows are you curating? How do you find your artists that you want to put in a show?
Right now, I'm preparing with the African Art Hub, 154 African Art Fair in London, and AKAA, known as Africa, in Paris, for their upcoming art fairs. So I'm very excited about that. They have amazing African artists from the diaspora. They're specialized in African artists from the diaspora, and they really help them thrive in the art world. I worked already. We're gonna exhibit one of the artists that I really like also as a person. His name is Reggie Kumalo. He's a South African artist. He's based in Tanzania, and he does those enormous. I mean, he has different sizes, but when we exhibited in 154 New York, we exhibited this enormous piece with fabric coming out of it. And it was actually chosen as one of the must-seen pieces of the fair. And his journey is just incredible. He left South Africa on his motorbike and went all the way from Cape Town to Egypt.
Wow.
And it took him a lot of time, but he would stop on the way to learn with everyone he would meet and learn about the different cultures and traditions. And yeah, I just love his openness, and we're gonna work with him again from 154 London.
Wow. And did you find this person, or your role is more spending time with them, getting to know them, distilling it down for the show? How does that work?
More in the context of this gallery, the African Art Hub, it's more in the second option. For my independent shows, I really meet the artists by just going out, going to studio visits. Sometimes I see an artist that I like on Instagram and I would reach out to them. And weirdly that works. I don't know if it's a New York or American thing, because I cannot picture that working in Paris. But funny story, one of the artists that I really, really like, his name is Jawad Bentama. And I met him on Instagram when I was creating my very first show. It was in the context of Sotheby's Institute of Art. We had no budget whatsoever. So we needed to find artists that were willing to let us borrow their work with no insurance. Nothing, like they just needed to trust a group of, not even graduated students to, exhibit their work. And I was already following him on Instagram, but I think I didn't know at the time that he was in New York. And I went to visit, friends in Paris. It's a very, very funny story. I arrive at the airport. I take a cab to go from the airport to my place. We start talking with the cab driver, which I usually don't because we landed at 6 a.m. So I'm usually very silent. I don't know why. I started talking to this guy and he's like, "Oh, you were coming from New York, and you're from the art world. That's funny. My old neighbor, previous neighbor when I was a kid, he left Paris for New York and he's an artist." I'm like, "Oh, no way. What's his name?" It's like Jawad Bentama. You need to check him. I go on my Instagram. I'm like, "Oh, I'm already following him." He tells me, text him and tell Karim says hi. But I don't know him. He's like, "Yeah, but he's a very nice guy. Like, you should reach out to him." And he keeps talking. I'm like, that's destiny. Like, okay, I'm just gonna text this guy. And I text him, and my Instagram page at the time was not art oriented at all. Okay. So I take this guy from an Instagram page that is very random. I'm like, "Hey, my name is Lara. I'm a student at Sotheby's Institute of Art. Can I borrow your pieces for an art event?"
Oh my God.
And I just, it was a bottle in the ocean and just threw it there, and I'm like, maybe he will answer someday. He took a couple of hours. He was like, "Hi, who are you?" So I explained to him what's the project, etc., etc. I don't know what pushed him to trust me. We met here in New York. We went to grab a coffee together, and we just clicked. So he accepted, and he's not emerging. He's already, like, not blue chip, but pretty established, like in between. So he definitely didn't need me. Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
And he was just so nice. So yeah, we did a show. I curated his pieces. I'm still friends with him.
Oh, so sweet.
Yeah, so this is how randomly I meet the artists.
From the taxi driver.
Yes.
Recommendation. Oh, my old neighbor. Wild.
And actually he doesn't remember Karim.
Oh, okay. So that would not have worked.
No, he doesn't remember.
You mentioned that you met the first Senegalese artist that was at the Venice Biennale.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's also a very interesting story.
So, I was in Senegal, and I was not always interested in African art from the diaspora. I was always connected to it, cause I'm from there, so I grew up with it. We actually, in our school, we had a sculpture of Ousmane So, which is a very famous Senegalese sculpture. But after a year in New York, I don't know why, I felt closer to it. So I was like, you know what? I'm going back home in Senegal twice a year. Why don't I start meeting artists from Senegal? And if I can ever find them opportunities to exhibit in New York, then I would really love to give them the space. I reached out to a friend of mine. He's a collector, and he's like, "Hey, I can put you in touch with all of these artists if you want." I'm like, "Yes, which one should I reach out to first?" And he tells me that Alioune is going to be the first representative of Senegal at the Venice Biennale in a pavilion. Senegal has been given a pavilion to the Venice Biennale. I'm like, I feel so proud, and that's insane. So yes, please, can you put me in touch with him? He gives me his WhatsApp. I reach out. Alioun is one of the coolest person I know, but not because he is flashy or arrogant. He is just chill. The guy was going to exhibit at the Venice Biennale, and it was an enormous deal. And he was chilling in his studio outside of Dakar in a place called Sali next to the beach. And I'm driving to the the location that he sent. And it's this house that is not even finished, I think, in the middle of almost nowhere.
Oh no.
No, but I mean, that was so fun. I go up and he's in this room, completely empty. There's nothing in the room except his paintings.
Wow.
No
bed. No, like did he live there?
No, I don't, this is the thing. I don't think so. It's a house, but he's only using, I think, the first floor for as his studio.
Oh, okay.
And I see those enormous pieces. Beautiful. And I get closer to it. I'm like, what is this technique? And he's like, okay, I'm going to tell you everything. So he sits and I start, asking him, how did you, get where you are? How did you come up? Because it's the first time I'm seeing such a technique. He's like, it's actually my signature and I worked very hard on it. He lost his grandfather, a couple of years ago, and his grandfather used to write Quranic verses. So he would always be sitting at a table, bent over, and he would write the whole time. So when his grandfather passed away, as a reflex, he reproduced this gesture. So he was sitting down, he sat down, in front of his desk, and he started not even writing, but just making a bunch of drawings. But he was in the same position, as if he was closer to his grandfather in that position. Oh. And he was like, okay, what about I take this writing and I turn it into a painting? And so, I really hope you can check his work out once. Yeah. But it's like those tiny letters, but they're not from our alphabet. They're not from no alphabet, actually. It's just made up, but it looks like letters. And he puts them in a way that when you take steps back, you can actually see the bigger picture. And he describes situations in Senegal that needs to be addressed. So overfishing, for instance, or braconneries is like hunting where you're not allowed to, some social topics and stuff like that. So it's a sort of figuro abstract technique to depict very important social matters.
Wow.
And when we were talking, I saw I think about 6 artworks ready. I'm like, okay, are these for the Venice Biennale? He's like, yes, these are all for the Venice Biennale. Like, okay, how many are you going to exhibit? It's like 17. And I look at him like, Alioun, it's in 2 months.
Okay.
And the guy was like, don't worry, I got it.
What?
And
there's shipping time in there, like you got what?
He was not stressed at all.
Okay.
I was panicking more than him. And it was the very first time I met him.
Wow.
And I'm not the artist. And I was just freaking out. I was like, Alioun, how are you going to do it?
Yeah. Oh my God. Wow. Well, it sounds like your journey as a curator, you like these artist relationships are really special. I love that.
They each have something so important to say and so unique.
Yeah.
That I feel the curator's job is to open their heart and their mind to accept those stories and connect to the artist.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it sounds like you love your job. You found the right one.
I believe that curators are a bit of artists too, because you need to be able to be creative enough to understand the art, understand the artist, and then find a nice way to exhibit and highlight the works.
Yeah.
So, and there's also like this whole more structured part of it where you need to do the art history research about what you're gonna show, about the art movements, and everything that is, that surrounds the exhibition, not only the connection with the artist, but the whole historical part.
And what, within your purview of expertise, what trends are you seeing within African art or African diaspora art, which is your specialty?
One of the trends, but it does not apply only to African art, is sustainability and eco-conscious art. So we're going to see a lot of use of recycled materials, and stuff like that. There's this whole, and I love that trend, the fabric part. If you go to fairs, art exhibitions, I have seen a lot of, they're not paintings, but sometimes they're mural sculptures with fabrics in it, or anything that is, not tapestry, but anything that includes fabric. And that brings us back to Reggie Kumalo and the, fabric dropping, paintings. And then there's this trend also in the artwork in general, not specifically to African art, but about body positivity.
Yes.
Yes, a lot. I did put down a couple of artists, with like female non-binary representations. Yeah. Cecily Brown. She is amazing. She's a British painter. She explores the female form and the female body. And then, yeah, I think that is mostly what I have noticed.
Especially with our common friend, Eva Marie Chloe, like, I noticed she tries not to make the character or the figure in the painting male or female.
Yeah.
So that might be part of that trend that you're seeing.
Yeah, exactly. I think people are trying to get an emotion more than attributing a painting to like, oh, male, female. It's more about what it represents and the idea behind it. As you said, Marie-Chloé, in the Overthink series, it's just a sort of portrait, but you cannot tell if they're men or women, and then it's just the explosion coming out of the shirt.
Yeah.
And so we need to focus on this explosion. And either you're a man or a woman, or a kid, or old, or whatever, you can relate to this overthinking representation in the painting.
Yeah, it makes it more universal, actually. As an art lover, what is your favorite museum in the city and why?
I love the Brooklyn Museum. I really, really like the Brooklyn Museum. I went there when I first arrived in New York. I love their collection. It's not overwhelming. They went number one in my list after the Giant exhibition.
Oh, the Alicia Keys.
Yes. That is one of the best curation I have ever seen.
Wow.
Right with all the Louis Vuitton Foundation in Paris. Everything they do is just super well curated, super well explained, very smooth visit. But the Giant collection was just another level.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited. I don't know what is their next upcoming exhibition, but I'm really, really looking forward to it.
I think the last one I saw there was the David Bowie exhibition, and it was, immaculately well done. Like every single piece had like the best description you've ever read in your life, and it was just all like really, really well done. Like it's difficult to describe the level of professionalism because it's just everyone else is here. They're like here.
Yes.
Sorry. MoMA.
The second one is the MoMA.
The MoMA is also good.
Yeah. I like the MoMA and the PS1 MoMA because people tend to forget about it.
And what's your best tip for navigating an art fair? Because I know they can be huge and overwhelming. How do you navigate?
You need to be strategic. You need to have your plan. And this is how I do. I know some people don't care. They just go around.
Well, based on your notes, you definitely have a plan. You have a map with circles and highlights.
Yes, I work in art fairs. Like if they're big armory show, I had the map and I was like, okay. I was with my friend. I'm like, we're doing that like that. We're doing a square and we're doing all the lines and then we're coming back and we're doing it like that. Because I don't want to miss anything. But the armory show is enormous.
It's great.
Yeah, I mean, there are smaller fairs. 154 you didn't need to do anything. You were just coming and the path is already drawn, so that's fine. This and half a bottle of water.
Wow.
Sometimes artists are there, so don't be shy. Talk to them.
Yeah. The next two art fairs that you're involved with coming up are the one in London
Yes.
and the one in Paris, right?
Exactly. The one in London is going to be 154. And what I like with this one is that people are so nice. And usually in fairs, you could see a bit of tension between galleries. I mean, they're going to be friendly. Sometimes it's fake. 154, people are just having a good time.
Aww.
And I don't know how the organization of 154 managed to do it, but it's such a pleasure to be not only an exposant, but also a visitor, from what I have heard from my friends that came visit me. And AKAA Paris, it's the first time I'm gonna do it, so I'm super excited. I have it, it's a bit smaller than 154, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Exciting. Well, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Where can everyone find you?
I'd say Instagram. I'm
Instagram?
addicted to Instagram, so I'm going to answer.
Okay.